Picture this, Kotzebue, Alaska. Imagine you are part of a group and are handed a manila envelope. Inside, you find a strange collection of materials. Photographs taken of birds and cliffs overlooking the Bering Sea, a field notebook with incomplete notes about seabird nesting sites, print documents such as minutes from tribal council meetings that got quite heated, random objects, audio and video recordings of subsistence activities with wind and ocean noise playing in the background, and associated transcripts and summaries generated by AI that clearly got parts of the conversation and the context wrong. This collection must mean something. But what? Well, this mystery centers on Dr. Raven Tulogok, a fictional researcher studying seabirds who disappeared along the Arctic coast in the 1980s. He was documenting nesting colonies, egg gathering practices, and environmental changes that local hunters and families have been observing for generations. Then suddenly, he disappears while doing field work without a trace. What remains are fragments of the archive, those photographs, handwritten field notes, documents, and recordings, as well as some AI-generated materials that aren't quite right. So participants must piece together these materials to answer one question. What happened to Tulugok? And more importantly, what can the data in this archive actually tell us? Hello, everyone. My name is Kana Ulok Ichakiak. I'm an Inupiaq scholar from Kotzebue, Alaska, and the director of the Center for Sustainable Engagement in the Arctic at Virginia Tech. The activity I just described is part of a workshop that my team and I have developed called Mystery in the Archives, the Tuluguk Files. My team and I will be hosting this workshop up in Alaska with about 40 Inuit participants from 11 different tribes this upcoming May. This workshop is part of the Rematriation Project conducted with our community partner Ukaluk Trust in Kotzebue, Alaska, with support from the Institute of Museum and Library Services. So, why a mystery? Well, first of all, we want to have fun. But also, community archiving workshops often involve learning technical concepts such as metadata, inventories, digitization workflows, and digital repositories and access. These are extremely important skills related to archiving and even data literacy, but they can also feel abstract, even a bit dull, especially for participants encountering them for the first time. So we wanted to design something that would make these ideas memorable, engaging, and easier to recall later. The approach we developed was to create a fictional cold case mystery built from fictional archival materials. Participants solve the mystery while learning how archives and digital data systems work. Importantly, the mystery itself is grounded in the Arctic environment and culturally relevant practices such as subsistence and subsistence-related observations. This means that participants begin the activity from a feeling of expertise and knowledge grounded in the place that they know best. This workshop is also a workforce development effort focused on building digital and data literacies in Inupiaq communities in Northwest Alaska. The workshop will bring together our research team, including 9 librarians, about 40 participants representing 11 extremely rural tribal communities from across Northwest Alaska. And each community is sending about 2 to 3 participants, and those participants will be paid either through our grant or through their own organizations as part of a paid professional training opportunity. Overall, participants include Inupiaq teachers from village schools, members of tribal governments, employees of Regional Alaska Native Corporation, and the staff from tribal health organizations. By bringing participants from these different sectors together, we are building digital and data literacy capacity across the entire region. The workshop will take place in Kotzebue, Alaska, a rural hub above the Arctic Circle. And this initial format is a 2-week workshop. And after running this 2-week workshop, based on what we learn, we will refine this activity into shorter formats, including a 1-week version with about 4 days of activity, and even a weekend workshop that can be used in other communities and contexts. So each day has 2 main parts. In the morning, participants spend about 2 to 3 hours working on the Mystery in the Archives activity. And in the afternoon, they work with real materials from a real collection in the community provided by Uklik Trust. Participants create inventories, digitize materials, and upload them to an online digital archive. So the morning teaches the skills through the fictional Mystery in the Archives cold case, and then the afternoon allows participants to practice those skills with real community collections that they care about. So during the first week, the goal is to create an inventory of a collection. This is an entire skill all in itself. So each team receives a set of fictional archival materials related to the mystery. And then participants will examine these photographs, notes, maps, and other materials. And they will identify what types of materials they have and what exactly the materials they have altogether. Then they will recognize duplicates, including what we call same materials and same but different materials. And they will make decisions about what will belong in their collection. And then they will begin documenting basic metadata. Inventory creation is one of the first steps required in community archiving projects and is really critical for receiving funding opportunities related to community archives. You need to know what you have and be able to share this information with others. So in this first part of the workshop, participants will be learning a foundational skill in digital archiving. And what's more, this first week is a complete lesson in itself because some of our participants cannot attend for the full 2 weeks. So we want to make sure that this first week is all about developing that necessary skill in a complete way. So in the second week, the activity shifts. Now that the archive has been created and put online, participants begin investigating it. The central question becomes, what happened to Tuluguk? Participants search through the digital archive and that data contained using Merkutu, which is the online archiving program that we have selected for this project, designed for Indigenous archives and Indigenous archivists. So they will digitize and analyze audio recordings, video materials, photographs, physical 3D materials, and written records. And they will also encounter AI-generated materials that contain errors, such as transcripts and summaries, and they must correct those as part of the investigation. This introduces an important issue in digital archiving today, the need to critically evaluate automated outputs. So participants will encounter materials that raise community concerns as well about online sharing in the public, which also introduces questions about responsibility, tribal responsibility, and cultural sensitivity, which is essential to discussions of Indigenous data sovereignty. So this activity is guided by a heuristic framework that we created called Mystery. So each letter represents a step in the archival work. So M is about materials. What materials do we have? Y is why, W-H-Y. Why does this material exist and why might it matter? S is for source, so who created it, who owns it. T is for time and place, so from where and when does this item come? E is evidence and documentation, so what does this item tell us? And how can we make it accessible? R is for responsibility. How should or could it be shared, and how should it be protected? And Y is for you, YOU. How do your decisions about the item shape the archive? How does your decisions in general shape the archive in general? And what can you do with the data in the archive? This framework connects archival concepts to concrete actions in a handy, memorable mystery framework. So, although this activity is framed as a mystery, participants are actually learning data literacy skills. They practice organizing data sets, identifying duplicates, evaluating sources, creating vocabularies, interpreting incomplete records, correcting automated materials, and making decisions about access and sharing. These are skills that are increasingly important as communities interact with digital archives, research data, and AI-generated information. Because participants come from schools, tribal governments, health organizations, and regional corporations, these skills are useful and will benefit the community across many different sectors. These skills are also closely related to Indigenous data sovereignty. Indigenous data sovereignty is often discussed in terms of governance frameworks or policies. But governance requires people who understand how data and data systems actually work, so they have the conceptual tools necessary to make decisions about enacting their sovereignty through that data governance. Through the mystery in the archives investigation, participants encounter important questions such as, should this material be made public? Who owns and controls this knowledge? Are there cultural responsibilities attached to sharing it? And what harm might come from posting something like this online? These are the kinds of decisions involved in Indigenous data sovereignty and governance. So the Rematriation Project works from the belief that community digital archiving is a powerful pathway to data literacy and Indigenous data sovereignty. For one, most communities have physical collections of culturally and community relevant materials that they want to preserve and make accessible right now. There are more collections out there at risk than there are archivists. So this is a necessary skill to bring to communities. Imagine the wealth of Arctic knowledge sitting in old boxes, in crowded storage spaces, in frontline communities right this very instant. We need to act quickly to preserve these materials and document this very important cultural and ecological knowledge heritage. By embedding archival training inside a fun mystery investigation, we help participants learn how archives work while practicing real data decisions. At the same time, this project builds regional workforce capacity in digital and data literacies across Northwest Arctic Alaskan communities. Participants will leave with the skills that apply to archives, education, tribal governance, health systems, and community research. And perhaps, most importantly, they will begin to see that archives are not just collections of materials. Instead, they are systems of knowledge that communities have the ability and the responsibility to shape and protect. So thank you for listening, and I hope you heard something that was of interest to you. So please reach out if you have any questions. I also want to make sure to thank the rest of the Rematriation Project team, Aquiluk Trust, the CC Intern team, and the University Libraries at Virginia Tech team. IMLS, thank you so much for your support. And of course, to the Inupiat of Northwest Alaska, thank you so much for making this possible. Thank you.